Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. My name is Steve. Right now we're in Ocotillo, California off Old Highway 80, standing in front of the ruins of Miller's Garage. But these aren't the ruins we've come out here to see today. Today we're going to head out into the Anza Borrego Desert and visit an abandoned station from the Impossible Railroad, and hopefully a rock art site where local natives documented their first encounter with Europeans. So let's get going and head out into the desert. Miller's Garage was a landmark on Highway 80 starting in the 1920s, but the original buildings were destroyed by the construction of Interstate 8. Most of these buildings date from the 1960s, except this stone cafe, which was built in the 1920s or 30s. Miller's Garage was important because it was the last oasis before heading into the mountains, or the first sign of civilization after making it out of them, where the road was steep, curvy, and hot. And the abandoned railroad station we're heading to has pretty much the same story. We are about to enter Anza Borrego Desert State Park and just came across this monument. I had to stop because I thought maybe something historical happened here. But no, this is the message on the monument. We've left the pavement and we're now heading to Dos Cabezas, which was a station on the San Diego and Arizona Railroad, which is often referred to as the Impossible Railroad. There are several dirt roads that head out there, but we're taking Mortero Canyon Road, which is supposedly in the best condition. The flowers are supposed to be in bloom out here in Anza Borrego right now, but there must not be any in this area because I haven't seen anything in the way of flowers yet. To give a brief rundown on the San Diego and Arizona Railroad, San Diego has a great natural harbor, but because of the mountains east of the city, it was hard to transport anything out of the city. The mountains were very difficult to cross, and a lot of people didn't think a railroad could be built through them, hence the Impossible Railroad nickname. Railroad construction began in 1907, and they were able to conquer the mountains using a series of tunnels through Carrizo Gorge, which was the most challenging section, and then just going around the rest of the mountains by cutting south into Mexico. The railroad opened in 1919. Nowadays, probably the most famous feature on the rail line is the Goat Canyon Trestle through Carrizo Gorge, the largest wooden trestle in the world. The Goat Canyon Trestle wasn't built until 1932 though, as a replacement for some of the original tunnels that caved in. If you'd taken the railroad 100 years ago, the Dos Cabezas station was the first station you'd come across after the long, hot, winding trip through the mountains, or the last place you'd see before entering them if you were heading west. What started out as an easy dirt road has definitely gotten rougher the further we've gone, but finally, there's the station just up ahead. And this is Dos Cabezas. There's the water tower and a concrete phone booth. And if we turn around, we can see what's left of the loading dock. Let's take a look at the water tower first, and I do see some other ruins off in the distance, so we'll walk over there as well. This station started as a work camp for the rail workers in 1915, and there would have been hundreds of people here at the time. When the rail line opened in 1919, it was an important stop because of the water, but I doubt many passengers ever got on and off here, aside from a small period in the 1930s, which I'll talk about in just a bit. This water tower was built in 1946. It replaced an older wooden water tower. The station got its water by piping it from a spring that's about 2 miles from here. The spring is named Dos Cabezas. So Dos Cabezas means two heads in Spanish, And there are two large boulders that are said to look like heads next to the spring, so you can see how it got its name. It's kind of amazing how this water tower has survived, while none of the concrete buildings out here have. But let's walk over and take a look where those buildings used to be. This station was abandoned by the railroad in 1958, and you might think that things being destroyed by vandals is a recent problem, but no, by the early 1960s, vandals had gotten out here and pretty much destroyed everything. Within 10 years, there were no buildings left. I believe what we're looking at right now is the foundation for the foreman's house. There's a lot of red brick everywhere. Looks like the restroom would have been right here. And some of the roofing is still here as well. Not a lot left of this building, but it looks like there's part of a wall still standing over here. And I believe we're heading to the section crew quarters now. One of the few historic photos I've seen of Dos Cabezas is of that, and I'll throw that on the screen right now if I can find it. Normally on a lot of old buildings, the last thing standing will be the chimney, but yeah, this is just a section of the wall right here. The rebar is really holding on to parts of this wall with dear life. A lot of these bricks look like they would have been tiles. There may have been a tiled roof. I read a story about one of the bridges near here getting destroyed by a fire in 1923, and one of the crew here, a man named J. Berg, grabbed a flag and went out and had to stop a passenger train from trying to cross, averting a certain crash. He could have possibly saved hundreds of lives. And here, where these ruins are, this is where he lived. And no visit to the crew quarters would be complete without checking out where the bathroom was. There was plumbing and electricity out here. And also, a pretty great view as well. Now I guess we'll head over and check out the loading dock. I think I read somewhere that this ramp was built for loading limestone, but I couldn't re-find that information before we came out here, so don't quote me on that. And of course there's graffiti out here. I'm sure if you went to North Sentinel Island, that island that has the uncontacted tribe that kills everyone who shows up there, someone's probably gone out there and spray painted it already. And there's something over here. I'm not sure what this is. Yeah, and I have no idea what this is. There are quite a few wooden posts sticking out of this hill. And here's a view from the top of the loading dock. Now, I don't believe an actual train has used these tracks since about 2008 or so. I walked down a little further to one of the bridges. I mentioned earlier a brief bit of tourism here in the 1930s. Well, this area was home to Native Americans for at least 12,000 years. And this bridge is almost not connected to the side here anymore. Let's head out onto it. So in 1933, petroglyphs were found in the area, and for a short time, that brought in visitors. If we keep following the tracks in this direction, eventually they'll turn back and head into Carrizo Gorge to the famous Goat Canyon Trestle, which is on the other side of these mountains in this direction. This bridge was built around 1915, so it's in pretty good shape for its age. Let's head back to the station. Before we leave the station, I want to check out this concrete phone booth real quick. You can see where the hole for the wire used to be. And here's where it would have entered. And here's the inside.
Now that we've finished exploring the Dos Cabezas area, we're going to head about a mile south of here to a site that is sacred to the Kumeyaay people, where it's believed the first depiction of a European in Native American rock art can be found.
This is the Pedras Grande Cultural Preserve, the largest concentration of archaeological sites in the southern Anza Borrego Desert State Park, including what we're looking for today, can be found here. Now we just need to walk about 3/4 of a mile this way. Years ago you could drive up this road, but it's now closed to vehicles to help protect the area. The golden eagle is an important spiritual symbol in Kumeyaay culture, and that's one of the things that make this area so important, as the eagles like to nest on the giant boulders on these mountains. I guess the wildflowers are in bloom after all. This is the only flower I think I've seen all day. There's no way this shows up on camera, but speaking of golden eagles, there's one flying above us now. Had we come here a few hundred years ago, this area would be teeming with human activity. And I just noticed this from the trail, so I'm going to walk over and take a look real quick. Now, you always want to be respectful when visiting places like this and not disturb anything. They've found dense concentrations of human cremations in the area, so I'm not going to actually enter this cave, but I'll take a quick look. And you could still see the markings on the rock from the fires of the Kumeyaay people who were here long ago. Because of all the boulders, there are just countless rock shelters everywhere. It's kind of amazing to think that had we come here 400 years ago, even 300 years ago, there would be people here just going about their lives. The Spanish didn't make it to this area until the late 1700s. All throughout the boulders there are morteros, or mortar holes,
where natives would process seeds and plants. You can see quite a few of them on that boulder in the middle. It looks like the rocks here would have been used for sharpening tools. The Spanish had visited the area that is now San Diego on the coast a few times from the 1500s on, but they didn't permanently settle into the area until 1769. But that is on the other side of the mountains. The people living here would have certainly heard about the newcomers, but it wouldn't be until 1774, with the Juan Bautista de Anza expedition, that Europeans would make it to this area. Here's a look back the way we've come, and we've gone almost exactly 3/4 of a mile, and I think we found what we're looking for. Along with the Europeans, another thing people living in this area would be seeing for the first time is men riding horses. And that's why what we're about to see is thought to be a depiction of those first Europeans. This is the horse and rider pictograph. It's pretty faded. Unfortunately, over the last 50 years, people have vandalized the area and started fires here. Here's a sign showing what these pictographs looked like in the 1970s. It was a lot easier to make out someone on what looks to be a horse back then. I paid $20 for an app that's supposed to help make rock art stand out, so let's see if that helps. Yeah, I think we can see a few more details now. It's too bad people had to destroy this and turn it from this to this. Of course, no one can say for 100% certainty that this depicts someone from the Anza expedition, or even a European on a horse. I imagine seeing men riding horses for the first time would certainly be a memorable sight worth documenting though. And if this is a man riding a horse, this shows a moment in time where for the people living here, the world as they knew it changed forever.
So that's our look at the Impossible Railroad's Dos Cabezas station, and a small look at the Pedras Grande's Cultural Preserve. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.